Save the city or catch your greatest enemy. You can't do both.
I'm sorry, what did you just say?
You can't do both, I said.
No, I mean the other thing.
Save the city or catch your greatest enemy?
You think you're my greatest enemy?
Yes! You're obsessed with me!
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are! Who else drives you?
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and today I'm going to review Batman Catwoman Book 1 from DC Black Label. This is the follow-up to Tom King's sales-wise very successful run on Batman from 1 to 85, starting with DC Rebirth. This time he's working with Clay Mann, one of his longtime collaborators, one of the men that was key to the aesthetics of his Batman, obviously with Michael Yannon, David Lynch, and a few others. Now, normally, and I'll admit this, other than Heroes in Crisis, normally when Tom King writes a first issue of a miniseries, I think it's hot. Like, I think it's really good. I think he introduces ideas well. He sets the table really well, and then he normally kind of falls off the cliff. You get some character assassination around issue 5 or 6, and then he absolutely drops the ball, like heading down the stretch run. That is my experience reading Tom King as far as miniseries. Obviously, this isn't an ongoing, although he did promise this was going to be the planned conclusion to his Batman run, which wasn't supposed to end at issue 85. It was supposed to end at issue 110, I believe. Now, I don't believe him. I don't believe this is the conclusion of that at all. I think this might have some ideas that he was going to use in the conclusion, but this doesn't feel like it's very cohesive. It certainly doesn't feel like it would have worked following up on his City of Bane story arc, obviously, which ended up being kind of his finale, where James Tynion came back onto the series and pretty much revitalized the title with Joker War coming out of the pandemic. Now, I'm going to say this up front. If you thought Tom King's Batman was like hot, you're going to love this comic book. Like this is going to be the bee's knees. This is a return to basically what he was doing there. Now, if you were on the fence, if you thought the first part of Tom King's Batman run was really good, and you thought it fell off at the end, I don't think you're going to like this comic because it's much more reminiscent of what happened at the end of his run than it had been at the beginning. And if you didn't like his Batman run in general, or basically Tom King's writing style, you're definitely not going to like this, because this is quintessential Tom King. Or as I say, as far as Batman, new year, same shit. I'm not very impressed with this comic book. I am exceptionally impressed with the art, but I don't like the pacing. I don't like the narrative. I don't like the story structure, composition. I certainly don't like the fact that it's a Joker-centric book. In fact, I would say Catwoman and Joker are the main players in the book, and Batman's kind of like the third wheel. Like, what are you doing here, Batman? Get the hell out of this Joker Catwoman story. Like, multi-generational Joker Catwoman story. Get the hell out of here, Bruce. What the hell are you doing here? So why the hell do they use the Joker so much? I understand he's the biggest villain in comic book history, but we just had Joker War. We had Joker prominently featured in Batman White Knight, Batman Curse the White Knight. Joker's been prominently featured in like 2 or 3 other DC Black Label titles. Like, we've had enough Joker already. Go find a new villain. But not Bane, because we had enough of that too. So I am not recommending this comic book unless you love beautiful, and I do mean beautifully illustrated comic books, and you don't mind the words. And then I'll absolutely recommend this comic book. It should be a picture book only, no words, and then it'd be 5-star. But because it does have Tom King's writing, it is, in my opinion, a 2-star comic, and I do think I'm being generous. Now, this isn't Bendis level writing bad. I know some people are like, Tom King's worse than Bendis. Well, you can think that, that's. But if you take just writing quality, Tom King is a significantly better writer than Brian Michael Bendis. He just uses terrible tropes. He has a terrible outlook on DC comic characters in the universe. It's really depressing, and he has a tendency to destroy all the characters. But his stories, technically speaking, are much higher level than Bendis, and so a lot of the other writers of DC Comics. But he's just not my cup of tea. He never will be. I don't know. Maybe when he goes back to Marvel, he'll be the thing again. But at DC, I don't know. I don't know. Right now, Strange Adventures is a completely gone off the cliff, although they did ruin Mr. Terrific. And Rorschach has been serviceable so far. So now let's get into the details. Before I do that, if you haven't subscribed, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, give me a thumbs up if you enjoy these reviews, give me a thumbs down if you don't. Either way, I want to hear your thoughts on Batman Catwoman Book 1 from DC Black Label. Let me know in the comments section. Did you like the story? Did you like the narrative? Do you like the confusing aspects and all the time jumps and the non-linear way that he wrote the story, which is completely unnecessary? And I think he just does it. I don't know. You ever know somebody and they think they're good at something they're not? I think that's Tom King with non-linear writing. I think he thinks it's his thing, and it's not your thing, buddy. So let's get into it. Like I said, the art in this is absolutely spectacular. Specifically, I'll tell you this, Clay Mann can illustrate himself one hell of a Catwoman. Selina Kyle looks amazing. We get multiple shots of some very sexy cleavage. There's lots of close-ups on her derriere and other things like that. And she looks like $1,000,000. Bruce also looks pretty good, although, like I said, he's the third or fourth wheel in this comic book. He's like, why are you even here, Bruce? Get the hell out of Catwoman and Joker's big title. But Clay Mann is one of the premier artists in the industry. He has a very clean style. Obviously, you can see the line work and things like that. He doesn't look like he's writing it on a doodle pad or anything like that. It's not that clean, but it's a very, very highly polished line art style, and I always enjoy it. Now, I believe, Tomomori is a color artist. He's one of the premier color artists at DC Comics. He normally works kind of with their bigger titles. Not surprised he's on here. I think he does a great job. When they do action, it's a pretty fun comic book. Clay Mann does wonderful action. I remember reading him back in the days when he started on Valiant. The guy has been a star with action since day one. He certainly does that here. But, there was also a lot of interpersonal moments, a lot of like soap opera-ish type stuff going on in here. And he does all that stuff wonderful as well. Even though I think the script itself is quite boring and bland, he makes it look great. So, Tom King, you certainly are helped by having top-flight artistic talent wanting to work with you. Now, getting into the story, we'll talk about a lot of the rehashing of crap that Tom King does that I haven't seen poetry or music ad nauseum since Batman ended, and I think there was some of that in Heroes in Crisis. Like, there isn't any of that in Strange Adventures, although it has its own pretentious comic trope where it had Mr. Terrific answering a billion questions from his little Terrific ball over and over for an entire issue. I still can't believe that happened. But we haven't seen that in Strange Adventures. We haven't seen that in Rorschach so far. But we're seeing it again right off the bat with Batman Catwoman. It's I believe it's Silent Night is playing throughout the whole thing. It's multiple generations, multiple stories. It's Tom King. It's Tom King Batman. It's going to be pretentious. It's going to be boring. It's going to have poetry and songs, and I'm hoping Hickory Dickory Dock is in Batman Catwoman #2. I don't know. There you go. If you can hear that snoring, we welcome the newest member to the Thinking Critical family this week, and it's a beagle puppy, and she's sleeping. I can't wake her up, even though I'm speaking, and she's still sleeping. If you hear the dog snoring, that's the dog. I can't stop her. She's tired. But, the Thinking Critical family has grown by one member for the holidays. She was a special present for my boys, and they could not be more excited. Now, this is a era comic book. I believe there's one story happening in the present, there's one prequel story, and there's one sequel story. So we're working in 3 different timelines. When I first started reading the book, because there's no rhyme or reason why the stories are transitioning between the two. I thought it was 4 stories, but I think I got one of the stories is actually, I thought that was 2, was 1. And that's the prequel story, and I'll tell you why on that one. So there is some excitingness, I guess. Although I think it's weird that they're introducing Phantasm to the DC mainline universe. Like, isn't Sean Gordon Murphy introducing a lot of elements from the animated series in his own White Knight universe? And isn't Bruce Timm writing a sequel to the animated series, like comic book? Batman the Adventures continues. Why is Tom King playing in these playgrounds when he's only going to end up wearing a dunce cap when his stories come, his characterization comes off as second rate or third rate in this case. So I don't know why they're doing that, but we do meet Andrea Beaumont very early on in the story. This is the story happening at the current time, as far as I can tell. He mentions to her that Alfred has passed. It's quite clear that the two have had a relationship in the past. She's gone off the radar. You find out that she's believed to be dead in a fire with Joker. They found out Joker was still alive. Turns out she was still alive, and her son is missing. And she believes that he has escaped to Gotham, and she's looking for her 14-year-old runaway son. Bruce Wayne decides to help. He enlists the aid of Catwoman, Selina Kyle. Obviously, that is his boo. There they are, touching fingertips there at the top. And he believes that she can help her. Obviously, she has her ear to the street. They go and they talk to the Sewer King. It ensues. They got some crocodiles come after him. Obviously, crocodiles are no match for Batman and Catwoman. They dispatch them easily. They get some information. They go to the Wayne Bridge, and they find Andrea Beaumont's 14-year-old son passed away with a Joker smile. Obviously, he's been infected with the Joker toxin. And they're asking her who the father is, and she says, dead, he's dead. Now, is the father Joker? I'm not really sure. Possibly. I think it probably is Joker. But maybe that is one of the mysteries that Tom King's trying to introduce. Now, this story is not this. It's much more complicated when you read the stupid comic book because it's broken up and it's not even like into comprehensible parts. It's just there's a scene here, a scene there, a scene there, this in there, and at the end you just kind of got to reconstruct it in your mind what the hell was actually happening. Or this one's easier than the other two, but it's annoying as crap. I'm just putting it out there. Now this one is the story that I thought was two different stories. You can say there's different tones as far as the colors and everything goes. And this is the part where there's a lot of canoodling. It turns out Tom King was joking. He was full of crap. There is no Batman, Catwoman screwing scene in here, but they are canoodling. And I thought that was one story. Then I thought another story is Selina and Joker talking. Well, that's why I thought there was four. But it turns out, I believe, the canoodling stuff, the beginning of the relationship, haven't explored that before, have we, Tom King? We haven't talked about the beginning of the BatCat relationship in a freaking Tom King comic before. Don't explore anything new, please. So we're going back to BatCat, the beginning when they get engaged. Like I said, there's some canoodling. She's going in to steal something from a crime boss guy named Jimmy the Lion. Turns out Joker's waiting for her. The guy's already been dead. Joker knows that Joker knows that Batman has carnal knowledge of Catwoman. And he wants to know, since you're sleeping with Batman, will you kill him for me? And she says, no, I will not. And Joker and the other crime bosses are not happy with Catwoman. And I believe that's what the first story is dealing with. Now, when she does go and meet up with Bruce Wayne back in bed, she does not tell him that, hey, Joker wants me to kill you, whatever. She doesn't really mention it. But I believe that's one story. It looks like it's two stories, but it's one story. Then the third story, you kind of get, here's some of the big reveals here on this page. They all kind of bleed together. Is Selina Kyle is an old woman. She's going to a trailer park to visit an old friend because a mutual friend of theirs has passed away. They're talking about grandkids, and they're obviously in a retirement community. There is a pretty decent hint here if you look at the pattern on the couch and who in fact this old man is. I wasn't sure at the very beginning if maybe this was Bruce Wayne, and in the future he and Selina didn't make it. It's not Bruce Wayne. It's Bruce Wayne who has died that they're going to talk about. And I don't know. Is this the most boring, lame-ass future for Joker? Unbelievable future for Joker in the history of comic books. Do you see Joker being in a retirement community in Florida talking about his grandkids? I don't think Joker, this is way too much of a happy ending. It rings completely unbelievable. And then, that's when we get the big reveals that That guy, of course, is Joker. It looks like he's a vampire here, and he's trying to like suck her blood out of her neck. I don't believe this is Vampire Joker, but I don't think this is a good picture as far as the reveal. This is probably the one page of art Clay Mann does that I don't think is effective because it looks like we're starting a Walking Dead story. But she does reveal to the Joker in his retiring community that now that Batman is dead, there are no chains on her, and she will be murdering him for all that he's done to her. So that's that story. And then the other big reveal is that Andrea Beaumont is Phantasm. Which I think most people already knew that. We could see there's the costume on there. There's also a scene of her digging up a grave. And then that's the end. Of course, more Silent Night, Holy Night, playing on the music. Like I said, it goes between multiple stories. Tom King's pretentious crap is the worst. And his inability to write non-linear stories in any manner that is exciting or makes any sense. Like, this is just completely random for no good reason. Now, what are the chances that Tom King doesn't pay off most of these storylines? 100%. I think we'll get the ending of one Tom King story, because this is what happens on a Tom King comic book. Starts out okay, although I think this one sucks because it fell into all those same old pretentious tropes that he was using on his Batman run, which basically made it unreadable for like the last 30 issues, maybe 40 issues, something like that. It kind of fell into that, but it starts out. Then Tom King gets about halfway through. He's got to destroy a character, likely Batman in this case. But it might be. There's no way he's destroying Catwoman. That's a woman. He doesn't mess with the women characters, but he's definitely going to do something to destroy Batman at about issue 5 or 6, and then at issue 10, he's going to forget, or wait, he's going to finally dawn on him. They actually had to finish the comic book because it's only a 12-issue series, and then he's just going to make up a bunch of crap that makes no sense, so he can weasel his way out of the big story that he started without actually ending a couple of them, and everyone will be sitting there going, "Yep. The guy cannot finish the comic story. That sucked too." And that's Adventures in Tom King 101. And that's what this Batman Catwoman series is going to do as well, because that's who Tom King is as a writer. Now, I think this one started out much more poorly than his recent efforts on Rorschach, Strange Adventures. Certainly better than Heroes in Crisis, which I thought was an El Stinkeroonie from issue 1. That one was already falling down under the weight of a really stupid premise. So it's not that bad, but this is bad. You can tell this is going nowhere. This is the A train to Disappointedville. I'll tell you that right now. If you want to be disappointed in your comic book story and investing, $50, $60 into a story, read Batman Catwoman. I guarantee you won't be disappointed in how disappointed you are by this story, because it's going to suck.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.